built on relationships, focused on people, and rooted in the community. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. Tune in for weekly episodes featuring guests who are building a better tomorrow. You'll hear inspiring stories from industry leaders, business owners, community partners, and our team members. The Build Blue podcast, where construction comes to life. An Apex Construction Group production. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. My name is Jess Blaze with Apex Construction Group, and we are back for another episode, and we have Dr. Brian Wasserman from MSU joining us. Welcome. Thank you for coming in.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here.
I would love it if we could start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I grew up in Bloomington, so I'm a Minnesota native, been here all my life. My dad was involved in construction. He was a tinner, so he's a member of the Sheet Metal Workers Union up in Minneapolis area. And then he decided he could do things better than everybody else, so he started his own company. And I learned a lot. Most of the lessons were what not to do, but some really great stuff too. But as I was growing up, I was a good student, and my parents both said, don't go into construction, go to college. Because there was never, in those days, in the late 60s and into the early 70s, it wasn't an option to be college and construction. Mm-hmm. So I went off. They tried to make me into an engineer. Oh,
how'd that
awful.
Go?
Horrible, because I am not a sit in the box. And back then, we weren't drawing even on computers. It was all hand drawing everything. And I hated that. I'm not an artist. I draw like I'm in third grade, but I do not want to be the engineer. Mm-hmm. Let somebody else do that work. And so I ended up in college as a teacher.
Excellent.
I'm one of the odd ducks on campus that I actually have an education background. Uh-huh. Most people are invested in their career and their industry niche, but don't know anything about teaching. Mm-hmm. And I did teaching not in college for about 25 years. And now the last 20 I've been over here at Mankato.
Wonderful. We start each of our episodes with what we call the Apex Icebreaker. So if you could open and run any business, what would it be?
It would be the business that I started. I ran a construction business so in 1999, and my wife and I decided to move back to the Minneapolis area to be near family. And I said, well, if you're moving back for your family, I'm going to start my own business. And I looked hard at what I would do. And one of the things I could have done is run a business like my dad's. And, $1 million or so in equipment. And then all the union things we'd have to fight our way through. And I could have run a business making round pipe and elbows and sheet metal products and installing that all over town. And I chose instead to go into a consulting business because at that time, the construction industry was much like the dinosaur. And we didn't do, as an industry, much of technology. Mm-hmm. And I was 40 years old, and I knew about enough stuff. And then I had kids who were all over this technology. Now, I can learn that. I can do that. And I can be an asset to this industry. So I came back and started a business. We ended up repping software. It's now Sage cost accounting, construction accounting stuff. And it's accounting, project management, estimating, scheduling, all the rest. Mm-hmm. And I would help small to mid-sized companies. And I ran a great business for about 10 years until I got the phone call from Scott Fee. Maybe you should think about coming down here and teaching. And I can't do both full-time. Uh-huh. So I said no. And my wife looked at me and said, you love to teach. This would be good. Go interview. I'm still here.
And here we are. That's wonderful. Let's talk about your current role in the construction management department. Now we know how you got here, so let's talk about kind of what that looks like at MSU.
I started it in 2004 and was only going to stay for a year or two. And then by 2007, I wanted to make it a permanent career. And I had to go back to school because I had my master's degree, but not a doctorate.
Okay.
So I was running my own business, kind of full-time, about 3/4 time by then, and working here full-time, and then started in the Doctor of Industrial Technology program at Northern Iowa. And so I drove one day a week for like 3 years down to Iowa.
To Cedar Falls?
Cedar Falls.
And that is not a pleasant drive.
No. Well, it was freeway, but you get weather like this and you get 3.5 hours on a good day.
Oh my goodness.
So.
And you had a family.
The kids are grown and gone.
Got it.
So that was saving grace.
Yes.
As part of the whole chore. And my wife was extremely understanding. So when I got finished with most of my doctorate, then I ended up being tenure track, and in the university that's kind of a big deal. And then once I was tenure track, then I could be department chair. And Scott Fee was chair before me, and then he needed to go do other things, and so somebody had to take the role of department chair. So it kind of got dumped on me. So I'm finishing my doctorate, working my own business, and being department chair.
Oh my goodness.
And teaching a full load. And in those days, I ended up with a couple of $1 million worth of contract work with MnDOT.
Oh my gosh. Did you sleep?
No.
Was there ever sleep?
Very little. Yeah, about 6 hours a night.
Oh my goodness.
And when I was not sleeping, I was working. And it was pretty intense.
Wow.
So we got to the point, I did 9 years as department chair. And by contract at the university, that's all you can do, 9 consecutive years. And then it's somebody else's turn. So Dr. Diab took the department chair. And now 4 years later, as the rotation came up, my wife actually looked at me and said, "You're sort of like a human being now. Maybe you want to take on that department chair role again." Well, we've closed down the business. I'm not doing my school stuff anymore, the doctorate. I'm pretty focused on department chair and taking care of the needs of the department, and not working for MnDOT anymore.
Yeah. Has it been interesting with being in the role that you're in, kind of on and off over the last decade or more, just how your life has evolved throughout that?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges as a professor, this is not the students, that'll come later, but as professors is, what is it really like to be a professor as opposed to a teacher? As opposed to teaching the classes and going, wow, wow, wow. I think about, Charlie Brown.
Sure.
And inspiring the next generation with a vision for the construction industry as we send our students out and they become not the tail wagged by the dog, but part of the head of construction. And I think it's really important not to just feed young people to industry going, I need more project managers. We all need these days more project managers, more site superintendents. You name it, they're needed. But don't be the tail. Be part of the thinking of this industry. All the classes I teach are really focused on what is it going to be like to be a leader in industry.
Excellent. What are the biggest changes that you've seen in the construction industry, and we can talk about in your time at MSU and even before that?
Well, the theme of my company, it was called Leading Change, and it was about transferring technology from the office to the field. And when I started the company back in the 2000 years, the big disconnect was communication. And so the technology issues that are priority and the innovations that have come about are doing everything we possibly can to connect field and office. One of the shining stars is a software called Procore. And I remember early in my business days, a software called Constructware. And so that was clunky, but it was an effort. And so when there was an RFI in the field, somebody could submit it online and the architect would know that there's been something submitted. And then it would go through the approval process, up the chain, back down the chain, and everybody knew where that question was sitting. Is it waiting for a GC to approve it from a subcontractor to do the work? Is it waiting for the architect or engineer to approve it so that the GC could move that along? And those were early efforts to bridge what happens in the office to what happens in the field.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to move past the fax machine.
Yeah.
And I think we've, as an industry, made huge advances.
Absolutely.
No longer dinosaurs. People that are doing well in industry are tech savvy and have people around who can be tech savvy.
Yep.
And I do want to put in a plug for our students because they walk out of school. Most of them will walk out of school tech savvy. And they hear from me every day about you have opportunities. Now you need to go learn this stuff so that you're a quick study, because I can't teach what you're going to use at Apex.
Yeah.
I might,
Yeah.
but I doubt that it'll be the way you use it. But if they're a quick study, if they've done this once, twice, 3 times, they will be so much more useful in industry.
Yeah. It makes that transition so much easier for them too. What technology innovations, and this is kind of what we've been talking about with the software, and maybe that is the answer to this question, do you think that software has had the biggest impact on the construction industry as far as technology innovations?
I think building information modeling reaches right up there with the software. That the three-dimensional, as I mentioned early in the podcast here, I had to do hand drawing, hated every minute of it. I still refuse to really learn AutoCAD, even though Leah Rue, our professor at Mankato, does a great job of teaching AutoCAD. And I looked at that and I played around with it and I don't even like this. So I'll do the scheduling, I'll do the estimating, I leave the design to Dr. Rue. But the three-dimensional side is so useful. And when I walk onto a job site and they have a large screen TV, a touch screen, and some subcontractor comes into the general contractor job site trailer and says, well, what about the flashing on this window? And they pop up the right screen and they're able to open up the window and look at exactly what needs to happen. And they walk out in a minute or 2 with answers to their questions, as opposed to, well, I don't really know, and I'm looking at this little plan set and I can't quite tell, and now I need to send something to an architect or an engineer, and it's 2 weeks before they get that answer. Now they have that answer. Yeah. The way we've been able to create three-dimensional walls, I know exactly what's in there.
Yep.
The way we can do a roof and a connection, looking at windows and looking at, how does your truss stay on the roof and what have I got on the trim? Because as we all know, that's where it's going to leak. It's all about the connections.
Yeah, and when you talk about the three-dimensional, just on the design and sales side, that's a huge advancement too. Yes. It makes the building tangible, and the customer can actually see what it's going to look like and where things are going to be. And so that is absolutely a huge innovation. MSU boasts one of the top construction management programs in the country. What would you attribute that to?
Well, I think it's all about me.
That's what I was thinking.
But,
you're a popular guy in our office, that's for sure.
Thanks, but we know better. We have professors, Dr. Rue, Dr. Kim, Tommy Kim, Dr. Diab, Mohammed Diab, and Dr. Fee. And then we have an administrative assistant, Jamie Snow is there, and we have some adjunct faculty, and it's a team working towards towards building professionalism with our students. But we have no shortage of young people who are interested in this industry, who are motivated to become professionals, and not just motivated to get a degree. And that makes for a really good combination. Yeah. There's some awesome students who walk in.
Yes, and I've had the extreme pleasure to meet many of them and work with several of them here at Apex as well, and just excellent young people all around. What kind of growth has the program seen since you've been there?
When I started, it was interior design and construction management, and then interior design went away, and construction management had 150 to 200 students in it, and then we went way up in 2004, and we were somewhere over 300. But when you're program doesn't have the infrastructure, to use one of our words, things fall apart. We had 100 students in Intro to Construction Management. And you cannot pay attention to 100 students. You can't work with that many students. And so people left.
Sure.
And then the economy tanked in 2008 and 2009 in there. And people would say, well, there'll never be a job in construction. And we ended up, I think, around 150 students. And now we're back in that 270. It's a great spot to be in. We have lots of students, but not so many that we can't handle it.
Yeah.
And you know, my pitch is at the university, even if we went to 350 or 500 students, they look at us and go, well, what do you mean you need more faculty? In your business, you get to hire when you need to.
Yes.
In our business, we don't. I don't get to control that. So 270 is a good number.
Yeah. Excellent. What do you think is drawing students to choose a career in the construction industry?
So when I started, most of the students had a relative of some sort, mom, dad, uncle, somebody, and they were all involved in construction. And so they'd grown up since they were little tykes and enjoyed the business of construction. Today's student, we have a sector that comes from there yet, but we also have a large sector looking at opportunities. And I would also encourage women, and our numbers are not what they could be, should be, but they are better than they used to be. Because there's great opportunity. And then international students are part of our program. I remember in my early days, we had one international student. In the entire student body of 150 students, there was one from another country. Now we're at around 10%.
Wonderful.
So we've got about 25 international students as part of the program. Some want to stay here, and some are just really excited to learn all of this and then take it back home.
Absolutely. That's excellent.
So it's changed a lot, but the opportunities are there. The other thing that's happened with the collaboration of the professors and the places we go and the things we get to do is we have a lot more companies coming to Mankato. I don't know if you were at the career fair.
We were, yes.
Yeah, great event.
It was excellent.
Packed out
Yes.
because of construction management.
We had our own room.
Yeah, and it was packed out.
It was.
Yeah, so we're working on that. Thursday, I have a call with our advisory board, the executive committee of the advisory board, trying to bring some recommendations forward about how can we make this a little more comfortable for everybody.
And from our experience being at the career fair, I think it really spoke and was a testament to the success of the program at MSU, seeing the companies that were coming from all over the upper Midwest.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so fun to see.
It was cool.
We used to be a lot more local, and now we're just all over the place.
Yeah, we had a booth, and I think every company that surrounded us on either side was from elsewhere. So it was fun to chat with them, being a local general contractor, to talk to them as well. So how are the relationships between the college and general contractors mutually beneficial to the students and the companies? Here at Apex, we have a great relationship with MSU. We really value that relationship. So just curious how from your standpoint, you see that being a benefit.
A lot of what we do is called project-based learning. And that project-based learning is important because, well, everybody has different learning styles. So some people are auditory learners, some are visual learners, some are kinesthetic, where they have to have their hands on things. But if you're involved in a project, you have to do all of the above. And true learning is about just in time. So you don't have to memorize a lot of things that I don't use for 2 years because, after 2 weeks you forget. So we're going to teach them and then send them and then come back and teach them and then send them again. And the general contractors benefit because now that learning they just had, whether it's estimating, scheduling, project management, leadership, whatever it is, has a foundation that you can use, and you teach them the real I say real, but there's lots of real, especially when it comes to estimating.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How does this company do it? How does that company do it? And I can't possibly teach them all the ways to do all of the stuff. Mm-hmm. So by our wanting to have that relationship where we're teaching some, and they have, I think vocabulary is a huge piece of it. I go through I teach a mechanical class, right, as we were laughing about here before the podcast. There are people who don't know anything about electricity. Mm-hmm. And yesterday was the electricity. This is a power plant. How does a power plant work? What does a power plant do? And we hear all about nuclear power and coal and all those things, but like there's another layer underneath that everybody needs to understand. And then about transmission lines, and about the transformers, and how does that electricity get into your house, and what's the difference between volts and watts and amps and ohms, and things like that. And in order to be part of the language when you sit out on a job site mm-hmm. and start talking to the mechanical contractors, that's some of the foundational work that you need to have.
Yep.
And you're not going to learn all of those things on a job site in front of your subcontractor while you're trying to read plans. Mm-hmm. If you know the language, you can learn the plans. Then you can figure out this works and that doesn't.
Yep.
But you need to know the language. So much of what we do is vocabulary based.
Fascinating. My father-in-law was a construction electrician, so he would have been all over that class.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that students face, either in the program or coming out of the program?
I think all of our college students in this country, debt is one of the issues.
Yeah.
And not everybody is able to fund their college experience through mm-hmm. scholarships. Not everybody has families that can fund their education. So debt is a huge piece. One of the advantages in our industry is that our students step out and make a good salary.
Yeah.
Some of the majors, like if you're an English major, you're going to struggle to bring in an income to pay back that student loan. Mm-hmm. In construction, that is not the case. Our students can work at a pretty good rate, even as an intern, mm-hmm. which is a huge deal for them. They can make enough money during the summer to pay for their fall semester. Wow. But student debt it's a national issue, mm-hmm. and I can tell on some of our students who will take maybe 6 years to get through school because they refuse to have debt, but then those extra 2 years they spend is like they're not making good money.
Yep.
And that's all just part of the dilemma and challenges students have.
Yeah.
Or they take out more loans than they should, and now they're in over their heads for way too long.
Long time. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That's one. But also the other challenge is going from a student to a professional. And one of the things I think we do really well, beginning in our Intro to Construction Management class, is this is not where you're going to live. You don't live in school. You're in school to become that professional. Okay. You're in school to be effective in this industry in one way, shape, or form, which you can go so many different directions. But some students are actually just really good students. Stop. And then they actually have to go to work.
Uh-huh.
And they'd rather just be students. Hand me an assignment, let me get done with it, turn it in, I'm good now. Oh, next week maybe I'll have another assignment. And students will hear from me, and I'll say us, that'll get you fired as an intern. That's one of the things that can't happen in our industry, where you get done with your work, you turn it in, and then you grab your phone and go surfing. Mm-hmm. You have to be ready to go learn. And one of the terms in education is self-directed.
Yep.
So I will give out, an assignment, and it's really generic. And it's fun to watch some of the students squirm because I didn't give them a rubric. I didn't tell them exactly what they need to do. Here's how you get an A. You do A, B, C, D, E, and then you're good. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, wait a minute. It's your choice. What are you going to learn? You choose topics. You choose job sites. You choose people you want to work with, and show me what you've learned. And when students really grab onto that, I mean, 10 times, 100 times as much.
Yeah.
We were writing research papers a couple of semesters ago, and a student said, I've never actually been able to learn something that I wanted to learn.
Neat. Yes, that's powerful. It's such an important lesson, and will go very far when they start their careers and throughout the entirety of their careers, no matter what role they're in.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And I tell the students that I put out a resume and start looking for their internship, and they go, I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. Get a job. No. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
You need to know what you want to do. And even if you do it and you go, I changed my mind, that's okay.
Yeah.
But don't walk out going, tell me which way I need to turn.
Yeah.
Decide that you want to be in scheduling, or you want to be in sales, or you want to be responsible in the accounting world, or take your pick. I want to be in the field.
Yep.
And lots of our students want that role in the field, and go with it. And it doesn't mean you're stuck there for the rest of your life.
Nope.
But if you don't have any clues to what you want to do, you're going to have a hard time fitting in. And 4 or 5 years later, you walk out of this industry going, that didn't fit. Well, my version of 4 years in college is that you'll figure some of those things out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting when we have students come in for our job shadow program, where they come and spend a day with us. That's always the first question we ask. Do you know what you want your career to look like? And we get about 50-50. Some say, I don't know, that's why I'm here. I want to learn more. We get some that are adamant they want to be in the field. They don't want to be in the office. They don't want to be behind the desk. So it's always interesting to get that insight from the students on where they're at. And some of them know, and some of them are figuring it out.
Right. And when you talk about general contractors helping out, so Apex helps us by letting them look.
Yeah.
That's a huge help, especially to, again, our group of students that are new to this industry, that haven't grown up around something that their relatives have said, oh, well, we're going to work in heavy equipment, and we're going to build houses, and we're going to whatever it is. There are a lot of students that have no idea what all of that means. And so a day of a job shadow is priceless.
That's great to hear. We certainly enjoy having the students around and in the office. It's fun to be around young people.
It
really
is, isn't it?
It is.
Keeps me young.
What advice or guidance would you give a young person who is interested in pursuing a career in construction?
Dive in. It's just, you can't learn it by reading books. You can't do this by studying for your exams. You have to dive in. You have to be part of it. You have to go on job sites. You have to be part of job sites. You have to understand some culture. You have to spend time job shadowing with other folks. You just simply have to dive in. And it's sometimes a challenge because students are not told to dive in when they're young. They're told to be careful.
Yeah.
Don't get dirty. All the things we do as K-12 education sometimes, it's like, here's your assignment, do your assignment.
Sit and be quiet.
Done. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Don't ever discuss, argue.
Only touch what we tell you to touch.
That's right. And this is not that kind of an industry, and it's a culture shift, especially, again, for those who are just trying to come in and find a niche for themselves in this world. And there's such a demand for folks who can be creative like that.
Yes.
Great spot for them, but they have to dive in. I've had a few students over my years in Mankato who leave school and don't go into construction. But we are 95% of our grads are involved in the construction industry when they're done.
That's excellent.
And it may be a little higher than that, but maybe 98.
Yeah.
But that's a huge number compared to the average in college across the country, which is somewhere around 50%
Wow.
of students walk out and have a job in their major field.
Yep.
So we're well above average in having students invested in the program. And again, it comes back from get involved early. And if at the end of your first year you go, I don't want this, good, go find something else to do. Go be in construction trades, which is a great spot. We need lots of people there too. Go seriously into marketing and not into this industry, but not very many students do.
Yeah, and there's so many aspects of the construction industry. Like you mentioned accounting and sales and marketing, and those are all things that people are needed, and it definitely gives you a leg up if you know the business, coming from someone who didn't.
And students who come over from the College of Business, that's exactly the point I make. It's like, wait a minute, you know the industry now.
Yeah.
Now go do the business side.
Yep.
Where if you're in business, you might end up working for, retail or manufacturing or I don't know what, and maybe you don't even like that business, but I'm College of Business, so I'm taking a business job. So learn the industry and then do the business with it, because it really is a lot of business that we do.
Absolutely.
Guest speaker in class the other day with my intro class, he said, mostly it's business. It's negotiating. It's, pulling in customers and signing contracts and all the other kinds of things, which is not the emphasis in a construction management program, because we're like estimate, scheduling, project management, all these technical things. But we also know that overall, and I'd probably use an 80-20 rule. That's a 20% is your technical skill, and 80% are the people skills, the soft skills, the all about working together, being a team member. All of those things are so very important.
Absolutely. One thing, I don't have this on the list, so I'm going to kind of spring it on you. I just thought of it as we were talking, but we're noticing that a lot of the students are asking about our company culture.
Yes.
And that seems to be recent, even in the last 6 months. So I would love to get your perspective on kind of what those conversations in the classroom look like or sound like.
Class this morning, credit to Dr. Bill Badger from Arizona State, wrote a book on leadership. He had military experience and used some of that. And what we talked about today were values. And there were 35 values listed, not any, these are better values than those. They're all just values. And our students had to find 7 that they circled. These are important to me. And then we did a few other exercises to say which is now of those 7, which is the most important. And one of the students, okay, so we've done our exercise, now it's time to talk about it. First students, what was your number 1 value? Time with family and friends. Now, is that wrong? Well, no. Is that right? Not for everybody. So how do you determine time with family and friends? What are you going to look for in your job that says time with family and friends? Because there are some jobs out there that will pay you really well, and there are values about, getting paid.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not a bad idea. But do you want to work 60 hours a week? Are you willing to travel and work on, with a per diem and stay in a hotel and all the other things that come with that kind of travel? Is that a value of yours, or is time with family and friends? And they're, I'd say, mutually exclusive. You can't be worried about making $100,000 your first year out of college when you want to spend time with family and friends. All right, now what company are you going to look at? Because there are companies that will say your internship will be 60 hours a week. You're not going to have much time with family and friends. Now, there are companies that say we're done at 5, or and sometimes not quite that, and there are other things going on, but overall there's a value at that company of personal time. And so that's the discussion that we have. And so the student across on the other side says excellence in my work, and I want to work with people who are passionate about doing excellent work. Well, family and friends might be number 2 on his list. I didn't get to that. But that's a different value. So, and they're all right. They're all okay.
Yeah.
But know what you value when you step out. And so part of the culture discussion stems from things like that.
Yeah.
And that's where I come from. It's like, you got 35 values out there, pick some that are important to you, pick the one that's most important. And when you interview and you're saying passion about excellence in the job, make sure you're asking about that.
Yeah.
And if you're concerned about family, well, first, you don't want to travel a whole lot. Travel some maybe, but you want time where you say, stop work now.
Yeah.
So that's where the culture comes in.
It's excellent. It's such good things for young people and all people to think about. And I think
all of us.
A lot of us don't take that time to really map out what that looks like. So I love that these students are coming prepared with those questions and knowing where they stand as they start to explore their future careers. So
one of the other things we did is Strengths Quest. I don't know if you've ever bumped into that one. The strengths idea is, and again, like culture and like values, can spread all the way across the spectrum from the one called woo, which is like you want to be high in woo, then you're a salesperson, and others that are very engineering kind of brain oriented, very left brained and logic and structure and stuff like that. And again, none of them right, none of them wrong. Know who you are.
Yeah.
And I use math and English as the concept. Some people are horrible at math and could study math until the end of the days and never be good at it. Maybe proficient, but never really good. And you wouldn't be passionate about it. And so, like, are you in a math-oriented job?
Yeah.
Well, no.
No,
Of course not.
Absolutely not. My brain doesn't work like that.
Right. And that's okay, because we need somebody on the other microphone doing this work, and we also need somebody over in the office doing the estimating work or the other logic-based work that needs to be done, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
And that's how we make a team.
Yes.
Because we don't all want to look the same. We want a team that has different skill sets. And that Strengths Quest is about understanding who you are and taking that to industry and really the rest of your personal life.
Yeah.
It's about this is my brain makeup and it's okay. I'm okay with it. And this is yours and it's okay to be different. And have some pretty wild discussions sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. That is wonderful. I can't emphasize enough, like the students that we meet and get to engage with are just so wonderful, and they ask thoughtful questions. And so you guys keep doing what you're doing over there, because it's going very well, I would say. Is there anything you'd like to add, Dr. Wasserman, before we wrap up?
I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity for our students, because opportunities in Mankato are not so easily brought out. And you guys have done a nice job of giving the students a place to explore, and a few students a place to do an internship. And if some of our students are now here, they're now not students anymore, they're alumni. So we help you, and what you're doing is really helping our program as well.
Well, thank you so much. We're very, very grateful for this partnership. So thank you for coming on the podcast. We'll be back again next week with another episode. You can listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well.